This is what boxing needs. Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell here to set the stage for Canelo versus Bivol. Canelo Alvarez, the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. BC, what's at stake for Canelo?
Another world title at 175 pounds. Like we mentioned in that video, fresh off of becoming the first four-belt champion at 168, Canelo could have fought more marketable names, but he wants to keep adding that hardware. This will be, in a 14-fight stretch, the 11th fight for Canelo where he's challenging for his opponent's title. That's over 4 divisions. So what this fight gives him against an unbeaten champion who's very well respected in the sport, a chance to crash the party at 175. And you've already had Canelo talking in recent months about maybe a potential move up to challenge for a cruiserweight belt. This week, there's some talk. Could Canelo one day fight Alexander Usyk for heavyweight titles? Wow, you talk about daring to be great. This is a tough out. This is not an easy fight, but this is what Canelo does. I talked to him this week, and he said, I need this type of adrenaline rush to get the best out of me. When you can fight anybody you want, but you're still testing the toughest guys available, it shows you that he may not be done collecting belts. He may want all 4 at 175 as well.
I may add just real quickly, everything BC said is correct. The thing I would also add is I would not say that the win that Canelo has over Kovalev is some fluke, but we've talked about that fight extensively on Morning Kombat. Canelo was losing that fight basically until he wasn't, and it wasn't some dramatic comeback out of nowhere, but the point I'm trying to make is he got a late stoppage win. He had big power. That was 175, which this weight class is. Again, it's not that that win was a fluke, but to get 2 of them against, in this case now a belt holder in his own right, undefeated guy in this weight class. Now, Kovalev was actually much older. This guy, Bivol, is not. That would tell you that at 175, whatever people may have thought about what's happening against Kovalev, no, he can play at 175, no problems at all.
Dmitry Bivol, a perfect 19-0. He's got a 4-inch height advantage. Luke, what kind of problems does Bivol present for Canelo?
So what you would look at in a guy like Bivol is the jab first, and I would say he does throw multi-punch combinations. His footwork is clean, his decision-making is sharp, his demeanor is calm, and his execution is absolutely first rate. This is a very, very, very good boxer. I know a lot of times people want to make challengers to a guy to sometimes, in the betting odds perspective, to sometimes be a little bit better than he can be sometimes. But this is a case where taking Bivol seriously is really, really important. He is quite good. If there is a knock, and I'm sure we'll talk about it eventually, he is a little bit conventional. Not bad, but he has something of a limit around what he does. And I personally feel like a guy as creative as Canelo can find a way around that. But let's be clear, he has the height advantage and the reach advantage, and he's got a very good, effective, consistent jab. That's a tough problem for anybody.
Yeah, Bivol sometimes can fight a little too safe, but when he's in control of the terms, fighting from the outside, using that jab, it's hard to look good against him. It really is. He's undefeated for a reason. When you look at statistics, brought to you, of course, by CompuBox, counting the punches, statistically, Bivol's the best defensive fighter in the sport.
Right.
From the standpoint
independent of weight class.
From the standpoint of a plus-minus rating in terms of punches absorbed opposite your opponent's landing, he also has statistically the best jab in the game. So you're looking at a guy that fundamentally, foundationally, has the tools to outbox a Canelo Alvarez, who will be the smaller fighter moving up. Can he be aggressive enough in the big moments to do so? That's what we have to wait and see Saturday night.
Well, he certainly was aggressive in his last fight in November, knocked out Caleb Plant to become the undisputed super middleweight champion. BC, what has to happen then for Canelo to beat Bivol on Saturday night in Vegas? And a topic that you guys brought up on Morning Kombat was that Bivol does the basics very well, and Luke defended. That's not a knock on him. He's fundamentally sound.
Right, which makes it hard to look good against him. So to beat Bivol, you've got to take him out of his comfort zones. And for Canelo Alvarez, that'll be a slow, poised, direct move to get inside that jab and start to go to the body. Look, Canelo Alvarez has carried his power up from 154 pounds through middleweight, super middleweight, and we saw him, 2-punch knockout on Sergey Kovalev when he won the only other time he was in this division. Canelo can punch, but he's going to have to get inside to do it. He's finishing guys to the body on a consistent basis of late. The thing for Canelo, though, is not starting too late. As you watch this fight, you can kind of assume based on their styles that Bivol could take an early advantage boxing from the outside and winning those opening rounds. Canelo, though, is going to have to get inside early enough to try to turn the momentum of this fight. If I'm Canelo, maybe I'm looking more at stopping Bivol than focusing too much on rounds, but you can't start too late in that same equation.
No doubt about it. You're going to see Bivol, I think, out to a strong lead to start, and then Canelo's going to have to make adjustments if he wants to win. The thing in Canelo's favor that you really have to acknowledge is that, yes, Bivol is the taller fighter, the longer fighter, but the reality about someone like Canelo is he is, relative to Bivol, he is significantly more creative. He is a very creative guy. You know, for example, punching the arms of Callum Smith, something like that is just sort of unusual, but he comes up with it. He has all kinds of unique entries. He is evasive with head movement, trunk rolls, the whole 9 yards. So I think at first the jab is going to be very formidable for Bivol. But the question is, in the middle part of that fight, you should see a guy like Canelo begin to make sort of creative adjustments around it. And also don't forget, Canelo's trainer, Eddie Reynoso, is a boxing savant. Between those two, and given the skill set that Bivol has, which is very, very good, but conventional, a creative striker and a creative fighter like Canelo should have some success against him.
57-1-2 with 39 knockouts in his illustrious career. Only loss was to Floyd Mayweather. BC, Canelo's the monster favorite, but is he getting loss number 2 in his career?
Look, I mentioned in that video piece, and I've been saying it all week, if there's a potential trap fight for him, is this the fight where he may be reaching too far at greatness in history? Bivol's not a guy to mess with. Now, look, for Bivol to win this, for him to pull the upset, we're going to need to see out of him, like I mentioned, more aggression, and he's also going to have to make Canelo pay for crossing that distance, but he can do that. He's a sharp, firm counterpuncher. I think there's a higher ceiling for Bivol than he's shown, because once he takes control of a fight, he's willing to go the distance on those terms and that safety and win it. Can he be a little bit more dangerous? I think Canelo's going to make him. But I do feel like this has the potential to be a trap fight. Yes, it's hard to win a decision against Canelo Alvarez. Historically, so many have found that out. But Bivol is in his prime. He's bigger. And it is hard when you look up and down the sport in the pound-for-pound list to find people better than Bivol from a technical standpoint, a game planning standpoint, and an execution standpoint. Asking a lot of him to defeat the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. But I like Bivol by upset here. I think he's going to have to at times really slow that pace down. It may not be the most exciting fight, but you play chess with a chess master, and he happens to be bigger than you. We're asking a lot of Canelo Alvarez, even though he's the betting favorite, to win this fight in the same consistency that he won last year, knocking out those super middleweights.
I mean, remember, he beat Caleb Plant in the 11th round. He beat Sergey Kovalev in the 11th round. Even if a guy like Canelo was going to win, let's say stoppage, it's going to take some time, and I don't think he's going to get a stoppage. I think Canelo was going to win. I disagree with Brian, although I certainly acknowledge the reality of his analysis. But I'm going to say Canelo's going to figure it out. Listen, Bivol deserves your respect. He is going to do well in this fight. He is going to be in this fight for as long as it goes on. And I think he's going to have an early lead. The question in my mind is, when is that tide going to turn? What is going to make it turn? And a guy like Canelo is going to take risks that a guy like Bivol is not. And that, to me, is going to be the difference on top of the creative application of his game. I recognize he's up against a very, very difficult challenge. But I just see someone in Canelo taking a little extra risk, finding more opportunity with it, and then forcing Bivol to retreat. On the other hand, if you see something like Canelo not winning rounds 8, 9, and 10, that would be probably a pretty bad sign. So you're looking to see some kind of switch around 6 or 7, maybe earlier, maybe something like that. But I still like Canelo to win. Probably a split majority decision. Is going to be close.
Oh, wow.
All right, Luke Thomas, Brian Campbell breaking down Canelo versus Bivol here on CBS Sports HQ. If Canelo wins, it would set up a trilogy match against Triple G for the undisputed super middleweight championship in September. Saturday night, Canelo versus Bivol, 11 Eastern from Vegas.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.